y'all, Christi here with Little Salty Homesteader. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am back today with another weekly update. It is pretty swampy out here because I wasn't able to get out here until the middle of the afternoon, of course. So let's go see what's going on and try to find some shade. All right, y'all, we will start things over here in the tomato patch as usual, and as you can see by the wildness that is growing, the jungle is upon us. So we'll start over here. These tomatoes back here are the determinates and the semi-determinates. For example, this variety right here is Thorburns terracotta. It is a semi-determinate, so you don't prune it like you do indeterminate tomatoes. And it doesn't get as big as indeterminate tomatoes, but it should continue to set some fruits. You can see where it has lots of new blooms and stuff. So, just so you can kind of see the size of the tomatoes, they're a relatively decent slicer tomato, really excellent flavor. They ripen to a very, very dark terracotta color, hence the name. These are actually one of my favorite varieties, so I do try to grow it every year. The damage that you're seeing is from spider mites. I have been out here spraying with high pressure water hose and all of that on the days that it hasn't been raining. It looks to be helping because the new growth looks pretty good. If we continue to stay dry, of course, I'll be out here with the water hose spraying things down. And looky there. I've been looking for that guy and I could not find him until, of course, I turn on the camera. So that is a tobacco hornworm. And that makes number 16 for the year. That's only 2 for the week though, so I think we have a little bit of an improvement in the situation. So the way that I'm gonna handle that is I'm just gonna pinch this whole stem off here. Look at that, isn't he ugly? And this is how I handle it every time, unless the trash cans aren't back here, and then I throw him over the fence. But he goes directly into the trash. And then we go back into the garden to continue the fun parts. While we're at this end, you can see that the red onions have been harvested. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Thai red chili pepper plant has a ton of chilies on it. Super exciting to see. It looks really good. This is the hot and spicy oregano. It's doing really well. Nasturtiums are starting to fizzle out. Probably next week I'll go ahead and remove these guys. They're starting to get quite icky looking. We have habanero here. So you can see there, habanero peppers. There is Carolina Reaper, at least one in here somewhere, in the middle of the jungle situation happening. And then we have cayennes down to the end, various different varieties of cayenne peppers. More determinate tomatoes. And I don't have my map out here, so I can't tell you what kind it is. But there you go. Something got into that, probably tomato worm or something, so you can see there. But we do have some more tomatoes, so it's okay. Let's see here. This is fun. Okay. I need more hands. All right, so Buena Mulata pepper. The reason why I love to grow this pepper is because as it ripens, it goes through really cool color changes. So let me show you this one. It's starting to get kind of peachy, and then it kind of goes through different colors of the sunset as it ultimately ripens to red. So it starts out the purple color, then it gets this peachy, then more orange, all the way into the red. So super cool, has typical cayenne flavor. The plants are pretty dang prolific. You can see this one has quite a few on it. I don't know what happened with this pepper. It looks like it got disconnected from the plant, so that's why it looks all disgusting and some kind of worm. 'Tis the season for the pests, right? But the onions, like I said, were harvested. I got the Bennings green tent scalloped squash planted at the ends, and then in the middle I just have a zucchini squash planted here. So we will see next week if there's little sprouts to show you or if the roly-polies are eating them. This is just regular Italian oregano. This is like unkillable. This is its second year and it's going strong. Obviously, more tomatoes. The nasturtium, here's another example of how the nasturtium is just getting really ugly, but it's okay. This is kind of like a spring flower, definitely not a summer flower. But moving on to this middle tomato bed, these are the indeterminate varieties of tomatoes and various companion plants. And then along the front side of this bed is serranos and jalapenos of varying varieties. And then down the middle is the yellow scalloped squash patty pan that is planted. So let's walk through, take a look at things, see what's happening. I'll try not to step on those that need to ultimately go in the trash. These two plants right here are Darth Mater. These get quite a bit bigger than I expected them to. So they're like Roma in shape, but that is bigger than most Romas that I've seen. So, and it said that it's indeterminate whenever I researched it, so we will see how it does. This one was another one that had some spider mite issues. Again, high pressure water. I've been out here going crazy with it on days that it's not raining. And then, you know, hopefully the rain kind of helps keep them down too, because they like dry weather. So as long as it stays kind of rainy, that should help keep the problem under control. Moving on down, there is Super Sue somewhere. So this is the Super Sue tomatoes here. There are quite a few fruits. Now this one was one that I accidentally snapped whenever I was trellising and trying to get it woven. But I do think that it's growing like a secondary main stem from where I snapped it. So hopefully we get some more fruit set. This is a good one for salsa because it has a more acidic flavor profile compared to, you know, other tomato varieties and especially cherry tomatoes. But the tomatoes that are starting to get ripe on this aisle are actually these Juliets right here. So you can see we have a couple that are ready to pick here, and we have some that are ready to pick over there. These are a smaller paste style tomato. They are indeterminate, supposedly pretty heat tolerant. I'll let you guys know in June and July if that is the case. We haven't reached the temperatures yet where tomatoes stop setting fruit. It's still relatively mild, surprisingly. So hopefully I get a lot more tomatoes out of this garden before it gets too hot and I just start cutting them down. But yes, starting to ripen up on this row, so that's really exciting. And then right here, these two tomatoes on this end really got attacked by spider mites, as you can see. Again, high pressure water hose. Whenever I come out, I just literally spray every plant because if they're on one plant, they're on all of them, to be quite honest. So this plant right here is Black Beauty, and it does have several tomatoes on it. It will be black whenever it's ripe, but it will be red on the inside. So whenever you cut it open, beneath that black, really dark purple skin is red, juicy, delicious fruit. And then this is Wagner's Blue Green, and I cannot speak on the flavor of this one yet because I've never tried it. You can see the new growth looks healthy on these. I just got to get the spider mites under control so these plants can continue to grow and be healthy. It's something I battle every year, the dang spider mites. Taking a look at the peppers here. This one is pumpkin spice, I believe. This one did have a hornworm last week, but it does have several new leaves, so I'm not too concerned about it. I don't know what this one is. I don't see a label. This one is lemon spice, so this one likely is as well. It has a few ripe ones, but they're like kind of small. I am gonna harvest them though so that we can use them. And then we have more jalapenos here, of course. Something nibbled on that one. I hope they burned their taste buds. More jalapenos. And then right around here we get into the serranos, I think. And then we the hybrid variety that I'm growing is Trapio, and they get substantially long compared to your traditional serranos. Like, look at that guy. That is a serrano, and it's super giant, and they are pretty spicy. I try not to water these whenever I'm spraying these down, because the trick with spicy peppers is you kind of have to stress them out. Don't overwater them. Let the heat of the sun really concentrate the flavors, the capsaicin within them, in order to, you know, make it more spicy, which is what my husband and my son love. So I try to stress them out before I harvest them. Sometimes the bugs or whatever that was gets them before I do, but for the most part, the boys in the house have been more than happy with the peppers coming out of here. I have been harvesting them semi-regularly to make, to put them on pizza, and then I needed one for something else. Oh, guacamole, and then I made some salsa for quesadilla tacos with something out of here. So, pretty good peppers so far this year, outside of the icky ones. So just add that to the pile. So over here, these are the cherry tomatoes. Of course, cherry tomatoes are typically indeterminates unless you're talking like a dwarf or miniature dwarf plant. All of these are going to be indeterminate, so they're going to keep producing as long as the temperatures are cooperative and as long as the plant remains healthy. So that means managing the spider mites, which you can see, you know, like I said, once they're on one, they're on them all. Managing spider mites, managing hornworms, managing any other pests that I might come across. Cucumber beetles, I've seen a few, but for the most part, we're harvesting quite a few cherry tomatoes off of here. I haven't harvested in a couple of days due to time and weather, so you'll get to see some that are ripe. So we have Super Sweet 100 here on this plant, and then we have Sun Sugar here, and then these are the Sun Gold. So far, these have been my favorite, but I haven't tasted all of them yet. There's a couple that I haven't had any from yet. I think there might be a couple of Sakura ready. Let's see. Maybe not. Okay, so that is Sakura there, if you can see that one. This one is my Pawpaw's cherry tomato. And then this one is Midnight Snack. These are really good too. If you let these ripen all the way and then eat them, they're really good. And then we have the, cream of the crop sunset torch. That's these teardrop shaped ones with the pointy ends. These are pretty good too, but out of the kind of yellowish toned ones, the sun golds have been the absolute showstopper here. And then the one on the end is the sun green 4029. Let me see if that one is ripe so you can hopefully see the difference. All right, tomato jungle indeed. All right, so this one will be harvested today. It's relatively soft, whereas the rest of these are still pretty firm. And I don't know if you could tell on camera or not, but this is a slightly more yellow color than the rest of these. These are still a pretty vibrant green. This kind of gets a slightly yellowish, I mean, it's very slight tone as it softens up and gets ripe. So I'll harvest that one today, add it to my cherry tomato bowl that I just snack on as I walk by. So this is one plant. It's, I don't know. This was like all the way on the ground and I picked it up so that I could get through here, but it's a massive conglomeration of jungly tomato goodness. So it's probably gonna fall back down the first heavy wind we get. Let's see if that, not quite. Any of these? That one, this one's ready. So I don't know if you can tell the slightly yellow difference compared. I do see some spider mite stuff going on there, so gonna have to get out here with high pressure water hose. Along the front here are tomatillos at the ends and then eggplant down the middle. I just planted blue goose cowpeas in the middle of this bed here. So I still need to come through and water, like I literally just planted it. So hopefully within the next week, I'll have some cowpea sprouts to show you guys for the next weekly update. But tomatillos are going cray cray. The plants, I really need to get some more supports in here, probably hammer in some stakes and kind of tie them off to the stakes, because you can see they're just covered with tomatillos. They're everywhere. They're going in all different directions. The dill is doing really well. I'm kind of hoping to get some swallowtails on here, the caterpillars for swallowtails. We'll see. I planted it last year for swallowtails and they didn't find it, but they did find it the year before. So we have pickle bush cucumber here. And there's a cucumber beetle down in the flower, if you can see that. Again, blue goose, cowpea, I believe is what is planted there. Eggplants, I harvested one last week, used it for eggplant pizza. It was excellent. The Thanos variety doesn't get super big, so it's not going to get as big as the grocery store varieties. This one has a few more days to grow and then it'll be ready. But it was excellent. Texture was great, flavor was great. So Thanos, good for pizza so far. More tomatillos. These aren't as prolific yet. They started blooming later though, so I don't know if they're going to get more prolific. They did feed a hornworm pretty well last week. We have another pickle bush cucumber down here, and then blue borage there. I think that's blue. Yes. That's a volunteer that I transplanted into here from a blue one. So that should be blue. Again, nasturtiums probably come out in about a week. So I'll have to think about a flower that I can plant in those spaces that will give some color and be heat tolerant and maybe have some pest repelling properties. I'll need to do some research to see what I can throw in there. The jungle garden is jungly and I'm here for it. So mild side quest here. This little guy is a bird egg, clearly. This is a bird egg. I saw it the other day and I did some research. I saw it the other day and I did some research on it. I don't know how it got here. And the birds that it could possibly belong to, I have not seen around. Some Google search results indicated a robin, which I'm sure we do have robins here, but I haven't seen them like around my house. And then some of the other ones weren't native to this area. The only other bird that it could belong to is the American cardinal, which I have seen a male and a female around. So that is likely, but most of the time their eggs aren't blue. So if you know what this might belong to, it is about 1 inch long and 5/8 of an inch wide. We measured it the other day. So if you know what this might belong to, it's very pale blue with little brown speckles. Again, about 1 inch long, 5/8 of an inch wide. Obviously it's probably not going to hatch and become anything, but if you know what type of bird it might have come from, I am genuinely curious, so please let me know. There's something to be said about doing this in the heat of the day. But over here in the okra patch, things are really starting to progress really well over here. The growth in these beds has been astounding since I started doing the weekly liquid fertilizer and earthworm casting regimen. I haven't done it this week. I did do the granulated fertilizer though. But things are just growing so quickly now, which obviously makes me happy because the whole point I'm doing this is for food and stuff. I did come out and harvest whatever peppers were growing on these to try to stimulate more growth, and I used them in a stir fry last week. So that actually helped a whole ton because there are so many more new leaves. There's new blooms that weren't there before. So I'm glad that I did that. So maybe if your plants are struggling, pull off any fruits that might be on there and maybe it'll help. I'm not saying it's science, but maybe it's science. All right, the beans that are growing through the middle here, they have been producing really well. I've harvested a ton over the last week or so. You can see that there's still a few growing. There's still a couple of blooms left. So maybe another week or so before I can pull these out and then get, cowpeas planted in these 2 beds. I do want to talk about the squash for a minute because I live in North Texas and this is very pertinent to our area of the country, especially if you're a gardener. All right, so this is green zebra zucchini. This is a hybrid variety. I got the seeds from Johnny's, I believe. It was either Johnny's or Haas Tools. I can't remember which at the moment. I don't have a problem with the plant. My complaint isn't about the plant. My complaint is about the pests for the plant. Okay, so let's see if I can get in there. If you can see this right here, that is from a squash vine borer. Now, the moth that lays the eggs is a relatively attractive looking insect, so it kind of gives you a false impression like, oh, it's so cute. No, it isn't. Kill it with fire. It lays the little eggs, like there's one there, that little tiny dot. It lays the little eggs, and then whenever the eggs hatch, the caterpillars bore inside the plant and they kill it, essentially. Now this one seems to be handling being invaded okay. I did come out with a syringe and some BT last week and injected them all, but I think I need to do it again because we did get some rain and we do have some new bug damage. If you're able to get out here multiple times a day to check all of these stems and leaves for eggs, like there's another one right there. If you're able to get out here multiple times a day to check, then that's great. I haven't been able to this week. It's been really busy. Yesterday was Logan's birthday. And you know, there's so many different things during this time of year. It makes it really difficult to get out here often enough to check for the eggs. But if you can, just scrape them off, burn them with fire, throw them in the garbage. I don't know, get rid of them, try to get them away from your plants because they will completely decimate your squash plants very quickly if you are not able to get a handle on it. Injecting BT is another method that you can use if you see damage somewhere, like right there. So I need to come out with BT and inject into that part of the plant. Supposedly, these white icicle radishes will deter squash bugs, which are a different squash pest once they like bolt and go to seed. So we'll see if that helps. I have one down there that's bolting that I'll show you. But yes, fighting the squash pest season is here. Some folks will just not even try to fight the squash pest battle. They'll just keep planting squash in different places throughout their garden throughout the season. Our season is so long that that could be a viable plan for you if you have enough space to do that. Plant it in phases. Once one plant dies, plant them 2 weeks apart or something. I honestly don't know how to completely keep the pests from wiping out your plants. So yeah, other than like regular picking off the eggs and the BT into the stems, I don't know any other way besides, racing them. So this one is the camo squash. I'm not seeing any eggs, but that doesn't mean they're not there. And I say that, and there's one right there. They're really small, so just kind of scrape it off and get rid of it. Try not to squish it because I think that releases pheromones, if I remember correctly. But yeah, anyway, camo is a vining variety, so I don't know if that means it's going to be more resilient to the squash vine borer or not. There is a squash variety that does not have hollow stems, so it is more resilient against them. It's called tromboncino or rampicante. The squash itself is like super long and it has like a bulb on the end. It's kind of like oblong and then like this kind of shape. It gets really long, so I may attempt to grow it on the trellis next year because it is a vining variety. But I'm not giving up hope on these guys yet. Like, this guy was taken out last week and it's still putting on new leaves. So, I'm not going to rip them out until it's completely done for. Hi, Lily. What you doing, baby girl? Oh, is he playing with his friends?
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing my weekly update. Hey, you got tomatoes to harvest. Look behind you.
No.
Yeah, the second aisle has tomatoes too. So you're gonna be busy in a little while, okay? All right, so on this end, you can see the dill is doing really well. This is the green Thai yard-long noodle bean, something to that effect. It's starting to climb, so I'm going to kind of wrap it up here. This is the Hamey melon, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully it gets a little longer so I can try to wrap it up here. This is the partial eclipse squash. Even though it looks terrible, it is putting out new growth, so I'm just kind of hoping for the best with that guy. Along the back, we have okra. Hopefully it's not swampy after some rain. Let's see. Okay, it's not too bad. We do have several okra plants that are growing, and they've grown a lot since last week. I think the rain kind of helped, plus the regular fertilizer they've been getting. So you can see all the way down. These are looking pretty good. Basil's looking pretty good. Calendula's looking pretty good. This calendula that is here getting blasted by the sun will probably fizzle out in June. We'll see. These aren't like a super heat tolerant plant. They do better in cooler weather, so we'll see what happens there. All right, the sunflowers. This is the first sunflower patch. We'll get to the other one here in just a minute. This one I planted basically whenever I direct sowed the okra and the squash and stuff for the rest of the garden. So these guys are really starting to put on several flower heads here, which is really exciting. They're about 5 foot tall now. These guys are about 3 foot tall now. And then these guys are like a foot and a half tall. So what I think is going to happen is this back row is going to bloom, start kind of fizzling out, and then these guys are going to bloom, start kind of fizzling out, and then the front row is going to bloom. So we'll kind of have, you know, before, during, after effect. As things fizzle out and die off, I'll just throw more seeds in there. Because our growing season is so long, I think I can get another round out of this spot. I liked the idea of having sunflowers underneath this trellis. If I can get the stuff to climb up and go around the trellis, I think it would look really cool. All right, most of this bed looks really good. It is almost an exact mirror of the other bed. It just has different varieties. The only thing that is the same in this bed is the types of squash that are in here. I can show you. So here we have the white borage. So you can see super cute flowers. This helps repel hornworms. It is edible. Apparently it has like a cucumber flavor. I haven't eaten it, so I can't attest to that. But it'll be quite a large plant. It's very pretty. Pollinators like it. So I like to grow both the blue and the white borage every year. Calypso spinach, that's not spinach. Calypso cilantro is still doing really well. We'll see how well it does as it heats up. Like I said, the temperatures are still relatively mild, so I don't know if that has any effect on it or if this variety is more heat tolerant. If it is more heat tolerant, I'm growing it every year because we eat a lot of cilantro. This zucchini is starting to bloom. I don't see any female flowers on here, but you can also see vine borer damage down there. So that's super. I don't know how long these plants are going to survive once they do become infected. This is the bolted icicle radish I was talking about. So you can see how it has the root, and then it's starting to get the flower head at the top. Once those flowers bloom and it starts to form the seed pods, that is whenever it is its most effective at repelling the squash bugs, not the squash vine borers. I don't think anything repels those because they're the devil. But hopefully I can get some zucchini off that plant before the vine borers completely wipe it out. This is another camo. It's doing okay. Oh, there's one. There's an egg. I hate that. The other thing that's growing in here is bush beans, obviously. These are a flatter variety. That one a worm got or something. So you can see these are a flatter variety. These are another purple variety here. And then these are just your typical French style green bean, but they're on a bush plant. I have not harvested any of these today, so I probably do need to come out here and do a harvest. Okra, again, is doing pretty well. You can see flowers are blooming, basil is growing, peppers are getting ants. That ant mound has actually been there. I haven't been bitten by any of those ants, but I do need to harvest that pepper and that one, so we'll see. That'll be interesting. Maybe I'll put gloves on to come out and harvest that. So here you can see some green beans that are ready. All right. More green beans. All right, let's talk about this squash plant. So you can see where the vine borer entered right there and how it wilted this leaf like immediately. This one is the partial eclipse, and I don't think it is going to survive vine borers like at all. It looks pretty peaked and sad, and the blooms fell off before they even opened because it's starting to get sick. So I will attempt to come inject some BT in here, see if I can save it, nurse it along for a little while longer. If it dies, I'll just plant another seed. It's fine. Eventually I'm gonna get some squash out of this garden, y'all. I did do some planting along this trellis today that I forgot to mention on the other side. I am going to buy some pumpkin seeds for like smaller varieties of pumpkins, but for now I planted a dragon gourd on the end there, and then I planted another round of Malabar spinach to see if I can get it to take off. And then on the other side I planted a butternut squash because why not? And then another Malabar spinach on that side as well. Do I think that the butternut squash is going to produce any actual squash? No. But did I plant the seeds anyway? Yes. Not planting the seeds guarantees I won't get any, but at least I can try if I do plant the seeds. All right, over here in the corn. So this borage on the left, this blue borage, I don't know. It decided it wanted to be 27 feet tall, I guess. So remember whenever I said the plant gets quite large? That's what I meant. But this one, of course, is blue. So you can kind of see the blue flowers there. Really cute. It does kind of have a cucumber smell, so I can see how it would taste like cucumber. This is blue spice basil. No, I didn't have a blue theme in mind whenever I planted. I thought this was holy basil when I transplanted it in, but I guess I mislabeled it. And then we have corn. So I can feel kernels in here, so at least I got a little bit of pollination. Is it 100%? Absolutely not. I don't know what I'm doing. And again, like I say in every weekly update, I didn't grow the corn to be a food source. I grew it for fun because I thought it would look kind of cute in front of the greenhouse, and I didn't want to have just like empty containers that didn't have anything growing in them. So the corn cobs that are forming do have some kernels, definitely not 100%, but next year if I grow corn again, I will plant more and try to be more intentional with pollinating it. I need to come trim this tree. I need to add that to the to-do list. I'll kind of, oh, geez. That bird every time. Maybe it was that bird with the egg. Every time. Okay, so as you can see, the garlic is gone. I planted sunflower seeds in here today, just before filming this weekly update. There are 12 different types of sunflowers planted. Each pocket has its own kind. I tried to split up different colors and heights and things so that it's not, you know, like all yellow all together. So hopefully it's interesting whenever it grows. I do need to come water everything in really well. The dog was out here and he's afraid of the water hose. So that's why I didn't water before. Plus, it's really hot right now. So after dinner, I'll come water everything in really well, and hopefully next week on the update I can show you guys sunflower sprouts. Whew, my heart is still pounding from that bird. Every time. All right, now we're into the flower jungle land. I do have some sad news. The sad news that I have to report is that the powdery mildew is back in full effect. I had slowed it down with the baking soda and the milk, but it's been really humid, and then it rained for a few days, which also made it even more humid. Of course, the rain washed off all of the baking soda treatment, so it is spreading again. I do have new zinnias on the patio over there that we'll go look at in a minute to replace all these with. It's that guy. That guy keeps making the noises every time I'm over here. You must have a nest. I'm sorry, bird. Let me get past the bird's nest. It's worried. Oh yeah, there it is. There's the nest right there. You're okay, bird. We'll take a look from over here. All right. So you can see these zinnias here where they're getting crunchy. That is where the powdery mildew has totally taken over. What I didn't get to show you down there were some really beautiful snapdragons and the echinacea that is blooming pretty well right now. Petunias still look pretty good, but that's okay. I don't want that bird to feel like I'm threatening its babies, so I'll just move down a little bit. This end basically has the same issues going on in terms of powdery mildew on the zinnias. These will probably come out in the next week or so that I can get some airflow going. Hopefully by the end of June, I can get the new round of zinnias planted. I am also probably going to remove the salvia. Even though it is a native plant, there's a lot of it in here, and it is contributing to the overwhelming jungle feel, and it's a little bit more jungly than I want my flower bed to be. Like, it's one thing for your tomatoes to look all insane, but it's another thing for your supposed to be semi-well manicured flower bed to look this insane. So I'm gonna pull out the salvia. That will actually help the airflow of the zinnias a lot. So that's on the list to do before I get those baby zinnias planted. But look at this hollyhock. It makes me so happy. Bird, don't worry, I'm not getting close to your babies, I promise. The hollyhock is so pretty. This is a dark red variety. Planted it last year. It survived the winter. I didn't cover it or protect it or anything. I just went at it with the if it lives philosophy. And now we have flowers. I'm pretty sure it will die off after this, but that's okay. I have more hollyhocks growing in here. So petunias are still doing really well. Snapdragons, we're still getting some blooms. It's totally fine if the blooms kind of fizzle out on the snapdragons. There's kind of 3 blooming periods for snapdragons. So there's like one, like, I can't remember the exact nomenclature for it, but it's like phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. These are phase 3 bloomers, so that's why they're blooming now. Other ones are much earlier in the spring, so those are phase 1, and then the phase 2 are like mid-spring. Now, not included in those is the perennial variety that's at the end down there, the night and day. That one is perennial, so as long as I keep it healthy, it's just going to live and bloom as it feels like. All right, on around. We're gonna make our way onto the patio, but first I wanted to show you guys the ginger. Now, this had sprouted last week, so I showed it in the last week's weekly update, but you can see how it's really starting to get those cool leaves that ginger plants have. And then on up here, this one has a ginger sprout too. So where there's one, I expect more to happen. So I'm keeping an eye on it, keeping it well watered, all of those things. So hopefully we get quite a bit of ginger soon. It germinated much later than I thought it would, simply because temperatures were cooler for longer, and then, you know, weather was not what I thought it was going to be. But welcome to Texas. You can't predict the weather here, other than in July it's going to be hot. In this green stalk, I just planted pigeon peas in every pocket where there's not currently a plant growing. So not here with the nasturtiums or where there's lettuce. But everywhere else has the pigeon peas planted, so I will update you guys on that. These probably won't grow because they don't get enough sun, but these probably will, so we'll see. All right, we're gonna make our way over here to the pepper green stalk. The spider mite issue is much more under control now than it was last week. High pressure water hose. Unfortunately, I think these guys are like basically done. Most dwarf and miniature dwarfs are determinate varieties, so once they set their fruit, that's it for them. This plant is new though, or you know, it hasn't started blooming yet, so hopefully we get some. This is the Mally Rose, so hopefully we get some tomatoes off of it. This one had one tomato that ended up splitting really bad, so I ended up throwing it away, but you can see all of the webbing there. Maybe that is spider mites, and that's disgusting. So I'm actually going to end up cutting these down. I'll of course take the ripe tomatoes, cut these down, and I'm probably going to plant some basil in these pockets, because basil helps deter hornworms, and I don't want any more hornworms to get onto my peppers. This one had a cayenne that was almost ripe on it yesterday, so I harvested it, and Logan took a huge bite out of it and then ran around breathing fire for a little while. He said it was pretty spicy, and then my husband took a big bite out of it and he ended up with hiccups. So the Arapaho cayenne might fit your bill if you like spicy stuff. I'm growing it to use for crushed red pepper, so I can't really speak on its spiciness yet because I haven't had it, but they both said it was spicy, so maybe it is. The other peppers are doing okay on here. The eggplants actually look better than they did last week. I was more intentional with the watering the last week or so, which really helped. I actually need to pull off that tiny eggplant there because you can see it got overripe and kind of grody. It didn't get very big, and I don't think this is the home for these larger plants. Maybe like the Thai lavender frog egg would do well in here, since those are smaller plants, but these don't seem to like the green stalk as much. The rest of the peppers though look really great on here. They all have peppers, they're doing really well, so that's fun to come out and just pick what I need for whatever purpose I need it for. Strawberries, we've basically entered the phase of just try to keep it alive through summer. Summer is typically when the strawberry plants die in Texas. They like cooler weather better, so we're just gonna kind of baby this along. Hopefully the tree provides enough shade throughout most of the day that even though it gets a couple of hours of afternoon sun, you know, it doesn't bake these plants completely. So it worked last year. We're just going with the same thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Over here we have herbs. Obviously we have some flowers there. We have herbs over here, and then we have the lime tree with different varieties of basil and a spicy bug flying there. So for sure we have lime basil. This looks like it's cinnamon basil. This is Momolo basil. I don't know what this one is, but this one is Persian. So if you're curious if you can grow basil with your lime trees, yes, you can. Neither of these look like they're affected in any way by being buddy-buddy with each other. So there you go. Now you know. All right, over here, this is a Persian basil with bronze fennel here. This was a volunteer. This one I direct sowed seeds in here. I got some seeds in a seed swap, so you can see it's not like a bright green, it's kind of like a muted bronze color, so there you go. Over here, this is tea and medicinal and pollinator herbs. The chamomile, you can see where it's kind of starting to fizzle out. I have been harvesting the flowers as they get ready. I am dehydrating them inside, just at room temperature, well, sort of. I have them on the heat mat that my sourdough is on, so it's like 76, 77 degrees it's being dehydrated at. not inside an electric dehydrator. The temperature of the heat mat is that temperature. And then I have lavender here that also goes on the same dehydrator tray sitting on that heat mat. And then we have, sorry, I'm gonna make my way around here. This is Mondalvian Dragon Balm, and it looks like maybe it's going to bloom soon, so that'll be really interesting to see. Pollinators apparently love it, so I am happy to attract in more pollinators. And then we have hyssop here. This apparently makes a really great tea. More hyssop, and then we have rue down here at the bottom that I planted for swallowtails. Hopefully they can find it. This is marshmallow. So to use this medicinally, you actually harvest the roots. I need to do more research before I start becoming, you know, some sort of herbologist or something. But we also have tarragon over here, and I think that's all. There's a yarrow up there next to the thyme here, and we have mint everywhere. Once you grow mint, you have it through the apocalypse. Then we have anise hyssop here. I think I planted this for pollinators. I can't remember. I wrote it down inside. It's just not staying in the brain. We have some weeds that I don't want. Yes, there's the yarrow right here. This typically blooms the second year, so we'll have to keep it alive over winter and hope it flowers for us next year. This is an ornamental oregano. It does still smell and taste like oregano, so you can use it as an edible. It just looks cooler than the other two that are growing in the raised beds over there. All right, let's take a look at my harvest rack. Now, keep in mind that this was my first year growing any of this here. And some of this was planted on a whim without much research. And some of this was an experiment that didn't work out quite the way that I expected it to. But most of this is still going to feed us quite well. So on the top here, we have garlic, as you can see, yellow onions. These are the ones that I did the spooning experiment around, where you kind of, you know, dislodge the soil around the bulb. And then down here, we have red onions. This side was kind of the control side. This was the side where the green onions were, where the green stems were topped, meaning I cut the greens off 5 inches above the soil. And as you can see, they did not develop bulbs at all. So we determined that if we're going to top the onions, it's best to do them whenever they're still very much in their seedling stage before you transplant them out into your garden, or don't do it at all, so that you don't impede that bulb growth. Because now what I have here is red green onions. And then we have more garlic down here on the bottom. Now, none of these bulbs are very big, and that's totally okay. They're still going to work. They're still going to be food, still going to feed us. We do have clove development, which tells me that they did have cold enough temperatures. They probably just didn't have enough nutrients in the soil. So I need to make sure that I do a better job with fertilizing them early on. I kind of delayed the fertilizer a bit on them, so that was on me. That was a lesson learned for the next time I grow garlic. So am I disappointed in the garlic? Absolutely not, because I look at all this that I do get that, you know, is going to feed us. I can use it for garlic powder. I can use it fresh. I can chop it up and freeze it however I need to. I can roast it, you know. So I am not disappointed in this at all. I just am aware of what I can do better the next time I plant it. Hello, baby. Hello. Hello. All right, all right, all right. And then these are the seedlings and a big fat dog head. These are the seedlings from seeds that I started a couple of weeks ago. There is a video up on my channel from that. So some of the stuff didn't germinate well yet, but most of it did. Let's see. The sunflowers all of the varieties of sunflowers except this dwarf incredible germinated fine, which I totally expected. These seeds were incredibly old, and then it looks like maybe the mullein might have just germinated, which I don't know where I'm going to plant that now. And then we have, I don't know if that is celosia or amaranth, because both of those seeds are so tiny they could have gotten, either one of those could have gotten sprinkled there. I'll keep an eye on it as it grows. But the Rosetta Cosmos did not germinate, and then of course the rest of the amaranth and celosia did not germinate, but that's okay. That's okay. There's still time, you know. Maybe the soil got too dry on top. It's pretty moist now from all the rain. But anyway, the reason why I said I don't know where I'm gonna plant this mullein is because I was gonna plant it in here, but because I left the aloe out over the winter and it kind of turned to mush, so I thought it was completely dead, but it came up from whatever root was still in the pot. So now I'm just gonna let this aloe grow here and try to remember to take it inside when it's cold, and figure out a new home for the mullein. So yeah, that's the thing I have to do. I'm trying not to anger the bird. All right, but that is a look at the garden the last week of May 2025. It's starting to warm up. It's starting to become a jungle. We have a lot of food coming out of here at the moment. We are starting to see pest pressure, but overall, everything is still really lovely, and it is still my favorite place to be. I'm trying to stand in the shade because it's very warm. But that is all I have for you guys today. If you liked this weekly update and you want to continue to see how the garden grows and changes from week to week, please like, subscribe, and comment. Do all those different YouTube-y things. Otherwise, until next time, go find a way to get those garden manicures. Bye!